Hey guys, this video is going to be a full review on the Street Guardian SGZC12RC, otherwise known as the Panorama X1. I was really excited for this camera because this is my first remote lens dash camera that I've been able to test, and this was sent to me for review by shop.pure28.com, who currently is the only retailer in North America selling the Street Guardian products. So this video review is going to be a little different than my usual ones. This isn't going to be the exact retail product you get because this wasn't a completely brand new out-of-the-box camera. Either way, it's pretty close to what you're going to receive if you purchase it from Pure 28. But what's special about this camera, and there are some cameras from the past that have had remote lenses like this, but they were typically not that great. So this one has a camera that is separate from the actual recording unit. So the main unit on the left side of the screen is where you plug in your memory card and where it gets its power. And then the small camera on the right you can place up near your mirror or wherever, and it's a lot smaller than any typical dash camera. That way you can hide the main recording unit somewhere like a glove box or under your car seat. If you really care about form factor and want something very stealthy, this is something you should really take a look at. So let's go ahead and take a look at inside the box. Now if you order it as of now, you might get a box that actually has artwork and stuff on it, but this is what I received. Like I said, this isn't the standard retail package. So right on the top we got a friction pad for your dashboard. So if you want to put the camera on your dashboard, it'll keep it from sliding around. There's the Pure 28 business card. As I said before, they're currently the only retailer in North America that sells this camera. So here's the remote lens. Has a 3M adhesive. It looks similar to the Blackview rear view cameras, but it's even smaller. I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the camera because my package wasn't a standard retail package. It came with a power cord, the camera cable which is micro USB, obviously the remote lens and the recording unit. And there you can see the Street Guardian logo when it starts up. One of the first things I noticed was if you shake the camera, the G sensor is actually in the lens, not the recording unit. So there you can see it triggered the G sensor and now it's recording an event file. So the event files actually will be saved, so you have to manually delete them on your memory card if you want. The menu is pretty simple. You can see I selected format and it was just a yes or no. On the recording setup you got the resolution and the recording time. It's pretty standard. I usually leave it on the shorter minutes. Here we have the audio on or off for the beeps. The motion detection on or off. So it seems pretty limited because there's no custom settings like low, medium, or high. But what's nice though is this does have buffered motion sensing. So it's not like a lot of the Chinese cameras. This will actually record several seconds before the motion. So here I'm trying it out right now. So now I'll go ahead and check out the videos. And here you can see when I play it, you'll actually see my hand come onto screen several seconds after it starts playing. So that's the benefit of having a buffered motion detection. So I'll go ahead and show you the rest of the menu. Like I said, it's pretty basic. Got some date and time settings. You have the G sensor settings, low, medium, high, or off. Got language, 3 different languages. Not really sure what the difference is between the 2 Asian languages. We got the LCD standby, which I always keep at the minimum. can see I struggle to hit that back button. So then we got a reset option, and the about option is to show you the current firmware, which is the Street Guardian firmware. So I was a little disappointed with the lack of different options in the menu. A lot of other cameras now have options like contrast, brightness. Some even let you set where the motion detection gets detected on screen. But let's go ahead and look at the video of this camera. So it's got a pretty wide angle lens and also very good quality. I wouldn't say it's anything spectacular, but it's at least better than average for what I expect from a lot of dash cameras on the market these days. Sometimes in day footage, it's hard to tell the difference in video quality between a nice $200 to $300 Korean brand camera versus a $80 Chinese camera, but it's typically the night footage that really stands out, which I will get to later in this video, of course. Obviously, the big selling point of this camera is the remote lens. Now, I should apologize because I actually lost footage of the camera mounted in my windshield, and you'll see in a few minutes why I can't just redo that, but it's really tiny. It's even smaller than the rear view cameras of the black view cameras, and I really love how small it is. I think remote lenses like this is the future, and I would be surprised if other companies don't start following suit in the next year. I would assume that a big portion of cameras are going to be remote lenses in the near future. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's also a lot of cheap remote lens cameras. With this camera, it does have pretty great quality. It's got a Sony Exmor IMX322 CMOS sensor, which I believe is the same image sensor in the Street Guardian SG9665GC, which is one of the previous cameras I just reviewed. But this camera actually supports up to 128GB micro SD cards, and that's really important if you want to use it in the parking mode, which works great, and I'll show you that later. If you're going to be using a parking mode with this motion sensing, it's going to be going off a lot if you park in a busy area, so having a really big memory card is important. This camera also does have 15 megabit per second recording, which personally is my favorite sweet spot. I've mentioned this before. I think it's for 1080p basically the highest you can get before you start wasting memory and don't really get any more benefit. So something like 18 megabits per second I don't think is really worth using, because eventually you just can't see the detail in 1080p. So here you can see this is a pretty extreme light situation where the sun's shining directly into it, and it still seems to perform pretty well. A lot of the cheaper cameras will put a black dot over the sun because it can't handle the brightness or the intensity. Here you can see even these cars passing in front of my car are pretty visible. You might not be able to make out some of the license plates, but that's usually to be expected in extreme lighting situations. This is sort of a good example of when you get too much sky. You can see the steel I-beams of this bridge. At first were a little hard to make out and sort of blended into the sky because this area was really flat and I was getting way too much sky in the picture. This video is just a quick example of how it handles sudden light changes. So it'll go from bright to dark to bright again. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some night footage. When you get a higher end camera like this, the night footage is really where it's going to shine. A lot of the cheaper cameras have really poor image sensors, so they don't pick up the image very well in the dark. Where here you can see the road is completely lit up, but I've used some cameras on this same stretch of road and you can hardly see anything because it's just not picking up enough brightness. And some of those cheaper cameras also don't even have brightness settings, so you're stuck with what you have. Having a camera that performs really well at night can be very important if you get in an accident, because if it's too dark to see the license plate and they flee, you basically could just be out of luck, because if you didn't see their license plate but your camera's image sensor or lens wasn't good enough to make out the license plate, or it wasn't bright enough, then you're sort of out of luck and that's going on your insurance. So when picking a camera, I think it's very important to make sure the camera performs well at night. And overall, I would say this camera performs very decent at night. This camera was originally the Panorama X1, and in the past Panorama has been known as one of the best overall cameras for your money. And I don't mean best overall as in $60 for a G1W camera, just because that passes as good enough quality. Panorama has been known as being affordable while still offering some of the best video quality out there. So I'm just going to go ahead and show about a minute more footage of downtown Minneapolis at night with all the street lights and basically how it performs and picks up all of the street lights and all of the lights in the buildings while at night. So now the reason earlier in my video I said I lost the footage of the camera mounted in my windshield and wasn't able to redo that is because I decided to use it as an in-cab car. So I made a few modifications. First thing, I spray painted the mount black. Now I used Plastidip on this. In the past I've used Rust-Oleum, and I actually like the Rust-Oleum better. But here you can see this looks good, and the Plastidip is removable. Here I'm going to have to cut off this little wire hook because I'm actually going to mount it into my dashboard, and that hook is going to get in the way. So I'm not going into too much detail because my car's dashboard is pretty unique. This isn't really a do-it-yourself video. I just want to show how I did it on my Civic, and I hot glued the mount inside of the dash. That way you can't just pull it out. I ended up using a L-shaped USB, so there you can see it's pretty hard to see unless you really look at it. I am going to cover that light, and currently I just have the recording unit in my glove box, but I do plan on hiding that much better later. So here the music's going to be a little low, just so you can hear me talking, but the audio actually picks up very well while even in the glove box. And as you can see the entire inside of my car basically. So if you're the type of person that wants to be able to record your interactions with police, or if you're a cab driver and you always want your customers to be on video but without them seeing a big dash camera on your windshield, this would be a great option. Now with the motion detection, the fact that it buffers the motion detection, you'll see here I came onto screen several seconds after. It's because the motion sensing buffers the recording, and when it sensed me coming into the screen, it took the first 5 seconds and then recorded an additional 25 seconds after that. So overall, I think this camera is really fantastic. Obviously, I really love the form factor. I think the fact that it has a remote lens is very versatile. You could use it as a really discrete front camera. You could use it as a secondary rear camera. If you paired this with an SG9665GC in the front with this in the back, that would be a great two-channel setup. And with this motion detection, if you park in, say, the mall parking lot, it'd be great at spotting anyone that potentially hits your car while backing up and flees. In addition to the great form factor, it does have very good video quality. With the Sony CMOS sensor and the 15 megabits per second recording, it records very well for a 1080p camera. At first I was a little skeptical about the motion sensing parking mode, but it performs as well as it needs to. I don't think I'm ever going to have any time that it's not going to be triggered when it needs to be. Even if I was using this in one of my windshields, I don't doubt that it would start recording while it needs to if someone were to hit my car in the parking lot or something. I think in general, Street Guardian has really been knocking it out of the park recently. Not only have they provided high quality products, they've also provided high quality customer service through Pier 28 or whatever your country has, and great firmware support. Earlier in the review, I did say I was a little disappointed that there weren't enough settings or customization options, but throughout the time using this camera, there hasn't really been a time that I wanted to either. So, in the end, I guess it doesn't really matter. A lot of times I look at some cameras and they have all of these great features and I think, wow, that's awesome. But then I never touch those features. So, personally for me, maybe I don't need a lot of those extra features. I just want them because some other cameras offer it. Now, one feature that I do really like that one of the cameras I've been testing lately has is the onboard diagnostics system. And while with a standalone camera it might not be that useful, I think the future of dash cameras really is remote lenses with some sort of recording unit that you can hide somewhere in your car, under your car seat, or inside of your dash even, and then potentially even have a video output to a navigation screen inside of your car, and that way you could control your settings from your car's navigation screen. I think that's really the future, and I think this camera is really paving the way for this. Now, that's not to say there aren't other remote lens cameras. I know Lucas has had a remote lens camera in the past, and there's a couple other two-channel remote lens systems, and actually on hand right now I do have a two-channel remote lens camera, which I haven't been able to test yet, but like I said, I think remote lenses are really the future. So with this ZC12RC by Street Guardian, I don't think you can really go wrong. If you just want a one-channel system, or if you want to pair this up with another camera to have a front and rear, it's a great option. Again, I'd like to thank John from Pier 28 for sending this to me for a review. And if any of my viewers like this video or my other videos, I would appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. And as usual, drive safe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.